Gene, welcome back to the pod.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Mate, it's been, 6, 7, 8 months now you've been inside Music Valley?
Yeah, has it been that? Yeah, I guess so.
So, yeah, we tell us, how's the journey been so far?
It's been really good. It's been a different experience, some of my other teaching jobs in the past, but really formulative, and I think it's forced me to become a better teacher in new environments and adapt and be open to learning new things from my peers and associates, which has been really good. And yeah, I really enjoy being here, and the students are great, and the staff that we share this building with is awesome. So I look forward to coming here every week.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll unpack that a little bit more because we're going to go uncensored and right into the backstory there. Tell us, and all the viewers, who are you? What do you do? Tell us about your gigging schedule and the life of, or the week of Gene.
Yeah. My name is Gene Leone. I'm a musician, originally from Easton, Connecticut. I've been living in Australia for almost 9 years now. Originally lived in South Australia, where my wife is from, and been in Melbourne about a minus a year of that. And so I play music for a living. I teach music for a living. I produce and write music. That's all I do. And it took a while to kind of get there, but when I finally made the decision to do that, it was a no-brainer. And a week for me. I have 2 kids at home who are 3 and 1, Posey and Prim. So when I'm home trying to get things done, I'm usually got that going on. It is an absolute circus most of the time, but it's been really fun. I'm here 2 days a week at the moment, teaching individual lessons, and running the Rising Stars Band, which has been really awesome. Other than that, I'm working on material. I'm writing and in the studio making songs for other artists. And on the weekends, I'm out gigging, so I play with a couple different bands. I have 2 cover bands. One's called the Yachtski Brothers, which is yacht rock or yacht rock adjacent music. That's soulful rock and R&B music from the late 70s and early 80s. I have a Bruno Mars tribute, which I do with our new addition to the staff here, Josh Williams, who's an incredible vocalist and incredible band all around. Really great show. I do that. I do duo acoustic gigs a lot, and they usually come like, hey, are you free tomorrow? And do that, do weddings. Other than that, session work. I'll play on people's records, and that keeps me pretty busy and up early and out late. So, but probably wouldn't have it any other way. So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because you did work, I think, for a few years as a real estate agent and a few corporates.
Yeah.
So what, this is based on the last conversation. I remember we talked about this. What shifted for you? Where was the point you realized I'm not cut out for this. I want to give music 100%?
Yeah, great question. Well, originally when I went to uni, I was studying to be a doctor, and then I just thought it just wasn't for me. I had, my grades were good, but I just couldn't see myself doing that. And I transferred to Western Connecticut State University, where I studied jazz guitar performance. And out of school, I was just gigging and teaching like I am now. But for a young guy, there just wasn't as much opportunity to be self-sustaining doing that. And my parents were on my case saying, hey, you got to get a real job. My father has a company where he's a property valuer and a real estate agent. He's a property investor. He does new constructions and stuff as well. And he said, go do some post-grad work and get your valuer's license. So I did that, and I worked under him for a couple of years, and I was a licensed valuer working in the state of Connecticut, just on the border of New York City there. Everything from being in the absolute hood, foreclosed, condemned houses, to mega mansions in Fairfield County, Greenwich area, and everything in between. And at first it was kind of cool. And I always thought, because of where I come from and all my friends are very hardworking, aspiring people, that I wanted to wake up and put a suit on every day and drive a nice car. And maybe it was kind of a thing of having self-worth. And I was actually really good at it. That's the thing. But at the end of the day, I just didn't care about it, right? I was selling houses. I was doing the valuation thing. Still gigging all the time, still doing that at night. And then I moved here. And when I came to Melbourne, I just needed to find a job. I got a sales job doing cold calling for like a fuel card company. And I did that for like the least amount of time that I could. I think it was like 4 months or something. But yeah, top performing salesperson in that. Cold calling, closing between 10, 15 customers every day, 300 calls a day. And then got my property license here, worked in the Docklands at Berry Plant. That didn't work out. We won't have to get into that. And then worked in Brighton for about a year, and which also ended up in a dumpster fire with the directors getting arrested for fraud and embezzlement, like all types of, like, name something, basically. Great guys, like, and I saw some things along the way. I was like, I don't think this is right. But yeah, not to get off track, but the real estate, just like business in general, is wild here. In the States, even coming from the New York City area, I never saw the amount of just absolutely unhinged or like illegal stuff that I did while I was working here. And I was just saying to myself, I don't think this is for me. And still needed a job, went into corporate and was running a sales team for a company that was called Census at the time. They did the white pages and was going great, running a team here. We were starting one in Brisbane and Sydney, and I was going to run there and another one over there. And COVID hit, and they basically laid off 60% of the whole company. It was a big company. At the time, I saw a video, and I think I've told you this before, with Jim Carrey, and he was talking about how his dad was a really funny guy, could have been a great comedian, but he took the safe route and became an accountant. And in the late 80s, there was a recession, and he lost his job, and Jim and his family had to foreclose on their house, were out in the street, living out of a car. And he said something that I thought was really fascinating. He was like, you could take the safe route thinking that everything will be okay, and it's still not guaranteed. So you might as well take a chance on the thing you really love to do. And I saw that and I was like, you know what? I'm done with all of this. I'm done with employers that just don't care and just work you to the bone, and seeing people steer a ship in a direction is headed for an iceberg and you have no control over it. And I was like, I'm going to take control of my own life and my own career, and I may not, be a millionaire, but at least I'll wake up every day knowing that I'm doing something I enjoy doing and that I'm the captain of my own ship. If anything happens, it's on me. So that's something I could wake up with every day and feel okay about.
Yeah, man. Big calls.
Mm.
So what have you taken, though, in that, that grind, that team environment, managing teams, managing, personalities, following procedures, having to get pretty organized. Let's talk about that. So for musicians out there wanting to sort of, apply these organizational aspects and get really on top of things as a musician, like what have you carried across, and what would you suggest that a musician needs to have in order to like get places?
I've probably not carried over as much as I should. When you're in that environment, you wear that hat, and so you follow the status quo of things you're meant to do. And I was pretty good at that. Utilizing systems was really great, even though they drive you nuts. When you're in any type of sales or corporate environment, they have some type of CRM system, a way to keep track of all your clients, where they're at, if it's a sales pipeline, or that can be applied to any other process that you're working with them with. But just having as much data as possible is really good. You could apply that to being a musician. You work on a gig, they like something in particular, make a note of it. I try to remember people's names. That always worked well in business. Afterwards, I'd write something down. They told me about their kid and their birthday. I'll write that down. I think I got that from maybe Rich Dad, Poor Dad or something. who was it? Andrew Carnegie. And he would do that. And he would say people would take a special interest in them because he would make them feel seen, because before he'd meet them, he'd say, oh, like his daughter's birthday's on May 13th. You know, it's the 20th. I haven't seen him in a year. And as soon as he'd show up, he'd say, hey, it's your daughter's birthday this week. They're like, oh, you remembered that, you know? And
for those listening who haven't read the book, How to Win Friends and
that's
Influence
the
People.
one. Yeah. How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I got super into that stuff, man. And
So what happened?
what's that? What happened?
What happened along the way? Because a lot of these things, you know, I mean, these are the books that I've read.
Yeah.
These are the things that spawned the entrepreneurial character within me.
Yeah.
It was a personal development shift from, you know, creative, gigging, musician, and, you know, there was the discipline there, but there wasn't the structure, there wasn't the strategy.
Right.
So, like, how did you find that crossover? Like, are you finding that that's things like that are catching up more and more these days, or are they no longer as important for you? Yeah, I'm curious.
I think there's a lot of things you could take away from those books that are advantageous to just not just business, but anything in life, really. I fell off that sort of material. I think just after all of the train wrecks in business that I had that were outside of my control, I just got a bad taste in my mouth from all of it, and I kind of just like, I was just over it, man. And there's only so many times you could start anew and reinvent yourself and hit the ground running from the bottom up, when it just keeps burning down so many times and there's nothing you could do about it. I just wanted to kind of put that aside. And you know, but that being said, a lot of the things from those books I still use all the time, like mirroring methods, and I mean, I learned a lot in finance and stuff like that I still utilize. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to be done with it, you know, and I wanted to stop pretending to be somebody. And I found that in the corporate environment, that people are just like put on this weird personality that is just disingenuous a lot of the times. And I didn't care to go to and put that on. Like I'm an upbeat guy, but I just got sick of the jargon and the slogans and it felt so silly to me. And after it all just kept crumbling, I was done with it.
Let's go back to a situation that we share. We won't name names, but your previous employer sort of it came to a bit of a sour ending, I think, and a lot of that was a discussion you and I had about some of the traditional approaches out there in music education, developing, you know, musicians and young artists. Let's start with like that world. Let's talk about that world.
Yeah.
Right. You know, in Australia here, there's a big focus on, you know, getting exams, the academia aspect to becoming a musician, which you and I both know has a limit. And before someone has to, you know, start learning improvisation and collaborate in a band setting and then, you know, get industry ready. So how's your perspective on that whole traditional approach in, you know, training young musicians? How's that shifted for you?
I don't think that it's entirely how do I put it this way? I don't think that it's entirely for the bin, so to say. It is a bit archaic in its approach. But what I would say is it has shifted for me. And I always kind of believe this because I've always been a gigging musician, and coming from that world and being in the professional world, you could see there's like a lack of connection between the two. And there's no real clear way from a child who's learning in a scholastic environment to bridge those skills into the professional world. It really isn't there. Do I think it's a wash? No, because when you're young and you're learning an instrument, you're mainly there to learn the mechanics of it. And to have kids do AME-B stuff and ANSCA stuff to set a goal for them to develop their skills and meet those targets, I think is fine for the most part. Where it gets hairy is like, all right, now you can really you could play, you can move your fingers across the fingerboard, you can articulate the ideas on the page. But that being said, it's training students to be very pigeonholed in what they can do with their instrument. And, you know, working in the real world as a professional musician, how many times have I gotten a gig or something where they hand me pages of written music and I'm expected to like sit there and play that part like maybe twice in the past 15 years. And it's
So
just
we're talking about written notation
music.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, there's young people who want to be concert pianists, concert guitarists, and they want to sit on a stage by themselves and regurgitate material that was written 200 years ago. And that's fine. I love that. I like that music too. But does it equip them with the skills that they need to go out in the real world and get paying opportunities? Not really, right? Are they there? Yes. Is there a million other people who do exactly what you're doing and can also do it for probably less than you're willing to do it for? Like, yeah, you know? Working as a professional musician, like you have to be able to adapt, and you have to wear a lot of hats and have different voices and be able to meet the needs and expectations of the gig that's expected of you. You know, I was fortunate because I was really interested in a wide array of musical styles. I meet people all the time, like, what do you listen to? And they're like, everything. And I'm like, I don't think you listen to everything, okay? They mean like the popular genres that you'd hear on the radio. But, you know, they're not listening to like 70s Japanese disco funk. And they're not listening to like Meshuggah. And they're not listening to like Art Tatum live at the Cotton Club. Like you're not, you know? So for the average muggle who's non-musically inclined, like they have that. But I just really was interested in a lot. I was a music nerd. I was a guitar nerd, and it didn't matter what area that the guitar was being played in. I just wanted to see how this thing, what it can do in all different scenarios. And in the education department in these schools, like it's all the same stuff. And man, what used to drive me, I had 50 students a week. And when they're playing through these levels and grade levels, there's a book with only like 8 to 10 songs in it for each grade level. And after 4 years of teaching the same, you know, little song, like I started to hear it in my nightmares. It's driving me insane. I knew it really well, so I could teach it really well. But yeah, especially when the kids get older, I was really working to try to get them to enjoy listening to music. And I think that's where the standardized system falls off, because they don't implement listening to music in any way. I always make the analogy that music is a language. If I'm learning German and I just gave you a textbook and said, you know, read through the textbook, learn this material, you might be able to speak kind of German. But if you've never heard anybody speak German before, you're not going to be playing in a way that's productive at all, or musical or artistic, right? So I implemented listening, and I still do it now. I have all my students every week. I give them links, check out this person, because what was transformative for me was to find someone that I was like, a musician that I was like, this is my guy. This is what I want to sound like, you know?
I think you touched on a really good point there. I want to go unpack that a little bit. Listening, and it's something that when I reflect back on my journey and why I got into music, was because my uncle sat me down in his studio in front of his Servant Vega speakers.
Nice.
Right? The cool speakers at the time, back in like
hi-fis, baby.
late 80s, early 90s, and said, Stephen, sit down and listen to this.
Yeah.
Right? Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, Mozart.
Yeah, man.
Led Zeppelin, you know, on vinyl, Diamond Tip.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just, hey, here's a link, listen to this,
Right.
see ya. It's facilitated listening.
Yes.
And it's such a different.
It's almost
energy.
shamanistic. Like
It is. It's a rite of passage.
it is. Yeah.
And I reflect back, being in this business for 17 years, I often think about like what are the core elements that fuel potential and what are the controllable aspects to developing and nurturing potential in someone and talent. It's environment, it's facilitated conversation, guidance,
Yeah.
right? And, then there's the quality of the education and how much research and backing goes into it, and the stuff we'll cover in a sec. But that's what enabled me to really touch the core, because I was actually listening, and I was, I wouldn't say forced, but there was an expectation to really listen with not just, not just passive listening in the car on the way, doing it at home while your brother or sister's, banging out, making noise or whatever. Like, it was really uninterrupted. So I think that's a really important takeaway here, is if you're going to really be, it was actually John Lord's solo in Highway Star.
Oh yeah.
That just elevated me to a whole new level. And
yeah, man.
I don't think I'd ever was able to connect to something so divine and powerful as one of those moments. And I always wanted to get back into that.
Right.
Now, the other thing was, I had an uncle who I looked up to. So I already had this mentor here who was the cool guy out of all the uncles, the younger one. I won't talk about everything else, but that was like, okay, he was already cool. So I already had this kind of trust that he was the cool guy that really could help me become cooler.
Sure.
Right. And that, coupled with, good quality music, uninterrupted listening, was, like you say, it was a bit shamanistic. It was a rite of passage. And I think that's what's missing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I had never, till I came to Australia, what really surprised me, I have students of all ages. You wouldn't believe how many of them tell me they don't listen to music at all. Like, and can't name an artist. What do your parents listen to? I don't know. They don't really. I'm like, do you walk around in silence all day, left with your own thoughts? Isn't that a scary place to be?
And what's another thing is, like, movies and film and like Netflix and Cobra Kai, for example.
Yeah.
Cobra Kai, we've got it on the playlist because I drop off the kids.
Yes,
and all that.
dude.
Like, my little 3-year-old's like, can you check on Cobra Kai? And it starts with Kickstart Your Heart.
It's
like a mixtape. There's a badass mixtape someone created with everything from Def Leppard to Motley Crue to Metallica.
Hell yeah.
And so they're watching it, they're reliving it, and this is also another thing, I think, why there's such a resurgence in the 80s is because parents, the movies are basically being reinvented because the experiences that they shaped and formed in society and the energy that the kids see in me when I hear one of those songs, that's infectious to them. So they're like, oh my gosh, dad has just gone from, a daggy dad just dropping us off to like guy belting out high notes and like really fucking rocking here.
Yeah,
like,
man.
And so because they see that right then and there and they experience the music that goes with that, those elements come together and connect at a much deeper level. So this is what I think is really important, and like just want to go back to like this discussion around what musicians actually need these days in order to get them really connected with the music, inspired, and develop their potential in the best possible way.
Right.
So one thing is, you're saying listening. What's something else that you recommend that musicians need to focus on if they really want to become, the best versions?
Is this in terms of career or just playing in general?
Just leveling up.
Just leveling up?
Yeah.
Imitation.
Mm-hmm.
I come across this idea, and I think it's pushed a lot in music when students are young, that like you need to be an individual and have your own voice and have your own sound and all of this. And I don't believe in that.
Why?
When they're in their formative years, because they don't have a voice.
Right. Okay.
All right. If you're a baby and you can't speak yet, you're not going to have your own voice. You have to learn the language first, you know?
So let's talk about that. At what point do you feel maybe we can start introducing, because you and I talk about this topic a lot, like we have to introduce improvisation
Right.
at some point once they've learned the basics, the modes, the scales. Where's that crossover, generally speaking, do you think?
Well, that's like saying like I'm becoming a chef and I don't know how to cook or bake or do anything yet, but I'm going to start inventing my own recipes and ways of making omelets, but I don't really know how to make an omelet properly. Right? So when does that happen? It's different for everybody.
Well, it's an experiment for some, and some of those at younger ages maybe experiment with things having not really looked at anything and just thrown stuff together.
And you hear it in their playing, and I hear it especially when young people start improvising, and you get like this noodle stuff of like they've learned a scale and like so the notes are right, but they don't know what to do with it, and they think they're being clever by doing all this weird stuff, but that's not how it works. This is a language, and there's certain things that are expected of your playing and the way the notes connect and your phrasing that people expect to hear. And once you can master that, then you can kind of move on to like, what's my sound? And honestly, I think even when you try to directly copy another artist, you're playing it, not them. So it's still going to be individual to yourself. But we're not reinventing the wheel here, man. Like, yes, there's musicians that have pushed the limits, and even when you hear them, you can tell it's them in a few notes. But this is way more standardized than people think, whether it's improvisation or comping or playing. Like, I don't try to reinvent anything. Everything I play, I've borrowed from somewhere else because it's part of the language. Now, when I play it, you wouldn't say like, oh, like that's a Pat Martino line, and that's like a Van Halen lick, and like you don't say that, you don't hear that when I'm playing, but that's directly where I get these things from.
Yeah. So the influences, obviously, the influences enough so that you can play consistently. You can start to take bridges in the in your phrasing, cross-pollinate, all that sort of stuff, which I think we've identified through multiple conversations in our team meetings is usually at a sort of third, fourth grade level where they know their basics, they know the core scales, the keys, the chords, the inversions, and sort of able to start to navigate between those without having to, look at the black and white notes and start to kind of use their own faculty or their own discernment to navigate in their own way and decide that, okay, it's no longer up to Gene as to where I go with this. It's like, I'm going to go here. I choose to move in this direction. So if someone's listening and they're either teaching, coaching, training, students or other musicians or young artists, if you're going to, give them any feedback or any advice, what would that be in helping develop that originality?
My concept of that comes from a teacher that I worked with. His name, and it was already kind of like this, but he just kind of reinforced it for me to make me feel like it was okay to do this. His name is Jimmy Green. He's a phenomenal saxophone player, probably one of the best in the world. And I studied under him when I was in uni, and I took his jazz improv class 1 and 2. And basically, because I have a jazz background, and this is what they do, is you find a musician that inspires you. Like I said before, like you're like, if I could get a genie and he can grant a wish to like just give me their sound and their talent, like who would that be? Who would that be? And you just ingest everything that you can of theirs, learning their solos, matching their tone, matching their phrasing, analyzing what they're doing, because music is a conceptual thing. And yes, there's tone and there's timbre and there's articulation, but this is a really cerebral thing that we're doing. And people's concepts of how they choose notes is just as important as all the other technical stuff. And once you can, maybe learn a solo, learn 5, 10 of them, you do that, then move on to the next guy, do it again. Move on to the next guy, do it again. And now you're building vocabulary of stuff that you're really interested in. And all of those influences, eventually, they mix all together, and that becomes who you are.
Cool. And
we pick up other things here and there, too.
Yep.
Like I got into like a bluegrass thing for a little while, and I was just picking up licks and stuff. I wasn't trying to sound like him, but I thought that was cool. And now I've worked it out in a way I could play it over any kind of style of music.
Okay.
So we do grab things from other places, but that's kind of my concept when it comes to, building your own style or individuality and being able to navigate this music in a way that's expected of you.
Yeah. So just to recap, so you choose about 2 to 3 artists to really go deep in learning their styles, their
One
sound.
at a time.
One at a time.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
One at a time. The other thing you mentioned was, so you have big jazz background, which is a huge advantage. And in Australia,
Sometimes.
it's not the core go-to for traditional mainstream education from a young age.
Right.
So what's your view on that? Like, should it be introduced earlier? Like, coming from the States and then sort of coming into Australia where, you could say it's very traditional in a sense for the early, starter.
Right.
In this, talking school system, like they're not really throwing you with, into blues or jazz sequences from the early stages. It's kind of like, if you graduate and pass these sort of levels, maybe then you'd be ready to venture that. Like, what's your view on that?
Listen, jazz is America's classical music. Like, that's something that's individual to our country. So we grow up, it's much more prevalent because it's reflected in even the modern styles of music that we listen to. It's just more prevalent because it's just part of our culture. I would say that I wish I saw more of it here in Australia and just more band and ensemble opportunities in general, because not all public schools have programs that facilitate that. And I've in the past applied for high schools and worked with other schools, and you have all these music teachers and department heads that desperately want to do this stuff, but it seems like an uphill battle, whether it's funding from the government. It seems like a money issue for the most part, and if anything, they've been cutting it more than they've been adding them. And so yeah, I would say jazz in modern music, it really is the foundation for all modern music today for the most part. Any pop artists that you see, you go to a big concert like Charlie Puth or Justin Timberlake, and they're all guys from church and jazz guys.
Cool. Let's go back to last night. So we had a few auditions last night in one of the bands that you've been developing.
Which were awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
I was kind of dreading at first. I was like, we have things to do and blah, blah, blah. But it was really awesome. I enjoyed
So I think we had
so
about
much.
5 auditions. So there were internal auditions for vocalists that are currently in Foundations program here, wanting to get into one of our bands that we're training. And you're now training. And Martin has sort of obviously led the program and overseen your development in that. So I want to talk about 2 things. I want to talk about your relationship with Martin and sort of what you learned with Martin in developing, an ensemble like this. And 2, I was, running a session, and when I came in, I could overhear the standard went up significantly in your musicians, knowing when Ritesh, the band leader, sent out a message saying, hey, we've got people auditioning this week. Make sure you know these tunes.
Yeah.
Like you said, the standard went up. What happened there? Like, what was the psychology behind lifting everyone's potential through auditions? Do you think there's a magic aspect to this word auditions? Like, what's your view on that?
Yes, and I think it's actually something even I kind of had this notion, but you actually mentioned aloud last night, is the common person who's not deep into music, their concept or their exposure to music comes a lot from television and like the Australian Idol and The Voice and all that. That's something that everybody kind of knows, and it goes all the way back to like Star Search. Like, there's always been these kind of like talent shows. And when you put audition on things, it kind of triggers like that picture in their mind. And so they come in, and I was surprised. Like, they were really working it. Like, I thought they would just come in, they'll sing the tune. They were, yeah.
We're talking about the auditionees or
The auditionees.
your band?
So I'm talking about the auditionees
Yeah.
right now. Like,
Right.
they came in ready to kill.
Yeah.
All right. Like, they were here
They were moving.
with purpose.
Yeah.
With purpose, which
Right.
was awesome to
Interesting.
see. Whenever you have someone come in that you don't really know, you don't want to look silly in front of them, especially it's one of your peers. Especially if they start performing well, you feel like you need to match that at least.
Right.
You know, especially if you've been here for a while and they're new, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is our house. Like, we should be running stuff.
Yeah.
I think the second thing is we haven't had a singer for a little while, and they want a good singer.
Right.
My friend Josh is now teaching vocals here. For our Bruno Mars tribute show, we've just added Die with a Smile,
yeah.
which I've arranged.
Was that him who came in and sang?
So I had him
Nice.
come and sing.
Yeah.
For anybody listening who doesn't know, Josh, his stage name is Jay Williams, multi-platinum R&B artist, ARIA Awards, he was with Sony, and he's just an unbelievable talent.
Plays Simba in Lion King.
Generational. Played Simba in The Lion King. He worked with Channing
Mike.
Tatum doing Magic Mike. He's just an incredibly talented and beautiful guy. One of my best mates, and I love him to death. And he came in. He's a big guy, and he's a good-looking guy, and it can be intimidating. And I brought him.
Bit of a thinner version of The Rock.
That's it.
Slightly
So,
thinner, yeah.
and I said, do you guys want to know what it's like to play with someone who can really sing their ass off? And I don't think I prefaced it. I just brought him in, and I said, let's play Die with a Smile.
That was a good move.
And then I was like, all right, thanks, bro. And he thanked them, and he left. And then as soon as he went out the door, they were like, ran over the drummer. Was like,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, was that good? And he was like, oh my God, yes, dude.
Yeah.
So they saw
Right.
what a difference it makes to have
Right.
someone who's strong, confident, and like that's the leader of your band. And once they saw that, and I told them we're going to audition, they wanted to do a good job because they wanted a good singer. They wanted more of
To
that.
see how much it could elevate their performance.
100%. Yeah. You know, and you need that, man.
Yeah.
Everybody brings everybody else up. So
This is a big thing. So, one of the things I've stepped into recently is just being that coordinator to make sure those opportunities align and that, we can have all these auditions and the cross-pollinating of what to be able to, of different members to create that experience. Because
Right.
like we talked about, like if you don't have those inspiring experiences during the learning phases that, there's follow-up. It's one thing to have a learning experience out in the industry or the one-off audition.
Right.
It's another thing to have a rotation and have a system where you're consistently thrown into auditions or having, to match your peers' level, and you've got, different coaches or experts available to really set the standard, which is, big part of facilitating well. So now let's talk about facilitation, because prior to stepping into this role, because, you hadn't really run an ensemble in this sort of format, and we kind of, said, hey, we want to give you an opportunity to develop one of our younger teenage/young adult ensembles.
right.
And sort of threw you in and said, here are all the songs, go for it. And then Martin obviously has been by your side to guide you through that process. Like, why don't you walk us through how that process was when you first started to where it is now?
In my experience, I've worked with ensembles, I've led bands, I've done music directing, I've done music camps. And what I realized is I had done like the camp stuff with younger kids, and I've worked with professional musicians, and they're kind of like in between that. And I realized I didn't have much experience working in group settings with 17, 16, 18-year-old teenagers. And it was a bit of a jarring experience, I would say, to start out, to the point where it was like, I got to a point I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I really got to that point because I was so stoked to get in here and work with them, and it just didn't go how I thought it was going to, and I got so much pushback that it took me a while. It wasn't
Pushback from the students.
from the students.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started getting some pushback and like clear lack of respect, but it just wasn't going the way I wanted to. And I got a lot of advice from you, from Martin, who is an enormous help, and he's really into Sun Tzu and the art of war, which is good. It's all really
Chapter
valuable
1.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he relates everything to, like war tactics, and it does work. I had to overcome that by means of several things. One was just personality in general. I had to just pretend to be an adult for a little while,
Yeah.
which is hard for me, but
Yeah.
I guess, you got to grow up at some time. And one other thing was I had to show them some of my own work and accolades.
Yes. Let's talk about that, because I think this is something and it's a common thing I see musicians that try to act humble, right? And to the detriment sometimes, because students don't go and research. You expected in knowing to find out all the works and accolades, and awards you've won.
Yeah.
So what happened when you showed them, like you pulled it up on the big screen, you're like, this is last weekend, this is the weekend before, these are, 10,000 people audience. Like when you showed them some of the highlights, what happened after that point?
Yeah, they were like, oh, okay, maybe he knows what he's talking about.
Right, so you earned a bit more respect.
A bit more respect, yeah.
Right.
It's the kind of thing, and it goes for anything. If you're teaching something, people won't respect you unless they feel like you could do it too. I had to put on the screen. I had to have them listen to my arrangements that I've made for my live groups, listen to my recordings, tell them about some of the people I've worked with. And it shifted, it changed. And I had to play for them,
Was it hard for you to kind of be like, okay, it's in a sense kind of showing off? Was there a little bit of this, like...
Yeah, because I'm just not like that. In my world, the level of musicianship is so incredibly high that I just don't feel like I'm that great, So for me to like try to show off, like it just feels silly to me,
All right. So let's go back to your training with Martin. So take us through that. Like, where were you? What were some of the things, some of the feedback that he gave you? And then like, where is it now in terms of your performance in leading this band to, to 40 song industry standard?
Let's see. I don't think I should say all this.
No, you should. You should say it, because this is inside the valley. This is exposed.
He's big
real.
on cutting heads off.
Yep.
Cutting heads off.
Yep.
And corporal punishment.
Sun Tzu. Yeah.
Sun Tzu. Yep. Cut heads off. Make examples out of people, And we had to do that. We had a student here, just for one reason or another, didn't work out. I had to come and be like, guys, he's done. And any one of you can be next, because I'm done. I'm done with this, man. I'm sick of this. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm getting Martin in me now.
Yeah. We'll put the
I'm like,
label.
you want to screw with my band? Who the hell are you? Who are you?
Yeah.
You don't want to show up? You don't want to pull your weight? Fine. There's a door.
And you've commanded more respect, and as the band is better as a result.
And I mean, I only pull that out when I need to, but now they know if they piss me off, like, get out.
Are they better players?
They are.
Do they listen?
They do.
Are they enjoying it more?
I think so. I know I am.
All right. So for everyone listening out there who's running a band or, teaching or putting an ensemble together, this is what we want to pass on, because this is fundamentally a very big part of managing a group of people is EQ, managing expectations, strategy. Strategy is, I think a very foreign word and term for musicians. Yeah. And it takes them a long time to realize that's how they get ahead, because it's a game. It's like chess. And if you can't play strategy, then those who know will get further ahead of you, because they're being strategic in their moves, and they're planning out their moves, and they're researching, and they're not just winging it.
Yeah, like my teacher said, he's like, you don't have to learn this stuff, because I think at one point I was like, oh, do I have to be able to sight read really well or whatever? And he's like, no, you don't have to, but the guys you're competing against, they'll be really good at it. So don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Why should they choose you over them when they can do everything you do plus more?
Two more things, mate. Nardia, who's a former client of mine I worked with about 5 years ago, and last year we connected you to her, and since then you've recorded and produced, I think, a couple of tunes with her as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience for you, and how that's going as a producer.
It's going, it's been really great. And even I might just say like how we met, because I think that's important for, aspiring musicians, is you had Nardia come do a show here, and she was kind of doing it almost as like a practice gig with her band before she went on the road, right? And you were saying, oh, you gotta check this chick out, whatever. And I was planning on coming, and then I wasn't gonna be able to because I was getting ready for my wedding and stuff on. I just happened to like be doing a suit fitting like downstairs for my friend who's in town. Let's just go check it out. And I came in, I was like, oh man, like she's really good. And her style here in this country, I don't hear that. In the States, you hear it everywhere, Solstice and stuff, but not here. So I was like, after she was done, just wanted to say, hey, meet the guys in the band and connect. So like I got all their phone numbers, and here's what I do, blah, blah, blah. Networking is big in this, by the way. You only get work if people give it to you for the most part. So you've got to just get out there. And me and Nardia just got along, just personality wise, really well. Cause she was here, and I know she told me who she was working with, like Boo Mitchell and stuff, who worked with John Mayer and Bruno Mars. And I was like, all right, well, she's hooked up. And I was like, she's probably got some of the best producers in the world, whatever. But I was like, you know what? Like, let me just shoot my shot. I sent her a message. I said, hey, like, I really got along great with you, and I love your singing. Like, here's an example of some of my production work. If you dig it and you're in town, like, let's write some tunes, whatever, just have a session or anything. But she was like, no, I love this. And then she's like, oh, can I send this to my label? And then I was like, damn it. Cause it was like pretty left of center kind of stuff. Right. And like, this is actually like an ignorant part on me. When I heard she's in LA with a record label, I just assumed like they wanted pop music and stuff, like commercial stuff, where that's not what I sent her. And so like 2 days later, they're like, they love this. They're like, can you make more? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I can make more. And I came in, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And I played them. She's like, this is it. This is the one, or whatever. And we put it down, and yeah, it was awesome.
I came in and said more cowbell.
Yeah. And you actually came up with the hook.
Yeah,
that was you.
What was the hook?
Gotta do me.
To me,
that was you.
We're trying to figure
I
out.
might owe you some royalties.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Because we were like, oh, what like kind of, paints a picture of like, I'm bringing myself up and blah, blah, blah. And we're just like rattling off things. And you're like, gotta do me. I was like, we both were like, that's the one.
Yeah.
And we put it in, and that became the hook in the title of the song. Yeah. So thanks,
So is it
Steve.
released?
It's almost finished. I think all the vocals are mostly done. The mix should be done. I've got a call with her this weekend to catch up to see where everything's at. May have a couple little things I have to add here or there, but for the most part,
cool.
I think they're
looking forward to hearing
done. Yeah, we did that
we'll
one.
Put the link in the episode.
And so you never know, like just having a conversation, and sending a message could lead to a bit of opportunity. So it's been really fun to work with her, and she's awesome, dude. Like
very easy on to work with too.
Yeah, Nardia's my G. She's killer. So yeah, and she's out in LA. She's killing it. She's getting a lot of fun stuff. She's just was on the road opening for Marcus Miller, who's like one of my favorite musicians of all time. And so there you go. Yeah, just fun stuff. Keeping it rolling. See what happens.
Cool. Hey, just to finish off, we talked a lot about everything from sort of, nurturing potential, environment, your upbringing in jazz, and, some of the strategy behind, really getting the best results out of a group of people. What would you say to someone who's looking to come into an environment like this? Because we spoke for about a year, and we're kind of like trying to get you involved, and we finally got you inside the valley, What would you say to someone who's out there, like maybe looking at a job ad, like, oh, fuck, I'm not sure, maybe I shouldn't, would they accept, or what kind of attitude or mindset or anything would you suggest that, to that person listening to this episode right now?
I feel really fortunate to have found you guys. And again, I found you guys on a whim. I'd moved to the area, and I was just like Googling stuff around here. and I got your sponsored ads for our musicians meetup, and I was like, let me go like meet some people from the area. And I came in, and at the time you were doing the writing and production stuff, which I thought was so cool. And I worked with, some of the kids, and we had just a really great night. And it was cool to see that people interested in the creative process and playing music. And we had a chat afterwards, and I was like, oh, I don't know how much I can get out of your program, but I'm a teacher as well. And and that was over 2 years ago, I think, something like that. And I just always kept in touch because it was really easy commute, and it was such a cool vibe. Like, this is where I wanted to be. And I think that we have so many great people here that all have gone through these experiences, and between all of them, like, it's all been a collective of ideas to kind of fine tune the experience of Music Valley into something that, achieves the goal we set out to do, which is to take people who are interested in this and give them the tools and the experience to go out into the world and get gigs and get paid and do this as a living if that's what they want to do.
Maybe our next interview, I'd like to have you back on as a regular,
sure.
As part of the new series, is to kind of have the team in rotation and talk about different key themes that we address on a weekly basis. So maybe we can talk about, on our next chat, more about dealing with the sort of roles of, managing a family and expectations and public financials. Because I really want to get into that, and I want to sort of maybe even just give you some pointers that might be able to help.
Yeah, if anything, I'll take it. It's funny, whenever I meet someone else who has kids, I always ask, I'm like, oh, you have kids too? Because I always like look decrepit because I've been up all night with a 1-year-old who doesn't sleep. And they're like, oh man, I'm like, oh, what's up with I'm like, do you have kids? And like, I always ask for advice from everybody I meet. I'm like, do you have any advice? I mostly get, oh, just enjoy it. When they're little, I would get like sleep when they sleep. My partner's uncle told me, he's like, when they're little, the problems are small and frequent. As they get older, the problems are more infrequent, but they're bigger problems. So enjoy the little problems while they're little.
Yeah. Nice. On that note, man, great to chat with you. It was awesome to reconnect.
Yeah, man, as always.
We'll look forward to the next chat.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Thanks for tuning in. If today's conversation sparks something in you, drop a review or send this to a person in the industry who you think needs to hear it. And if you're someone who's done playing small and ready to take your music or career to the next level, we'd love to talk. There's a link in the show notes to book a call with us. Let's explore how we can help you plan your next move and reach your goals faster. But most importantly, if you're listening to this right now, I want you to know I hear you, I see you, I appreciate you, and my team and I believe in you. With the right environment and the right team in your corner, anything is possible. I can't wait to see you again inside the valley.